these are foggy. Anyone else put a face mask on with your glasses and they like fog up? I don't even have a face mask on, so I don't know what my deal is, but hey.
Welcome to the Live at 5 with Jen and Stacy, the Ask Us Anything
About real estate.
About real estate. And you could ask us other stuff, but we may or may not know.
And
Real estate, we know.
Yeah, and you may not want to know the other stuff.
It's possible. It's possible.
Totally.
All right, you want to start off?
Yeah, let's do it. What do I start off with?
You know, about that.
Oh, right. Let me get my life together. So for those of you that don't tune in, usually what we do is we do the live Q&A. So you can start dropping your questions now in the chat so that I can track them while Stacy covers some of these topics. We'll go through, we start off with recognition and just like celebrating the wins of the students in our mastermind. Then we get into a topic of the week. Then we answer your questions at the end. So start typing them into the chat now, and then I'll get us segged up so that we can cue it up. First come, first serve, so get in.
All right. So we're going to first start by talking about the some of our client wins and journey updates. So these are people who are currently in our mastermind and just taking action. So for starters, huge congratulations to Joni. She closed on Friday on her first 6-unit apartment building being in the program. She's got another one, a 9-unit that's actually supposed to close this Friday. Yeah. So she's like right there. She's about to go from 0 units to 15 units. And so we're really excited for her. Great job, Joni.
Congratulations, Joni.
So good. And Natasha, everybody loves Natasha. Natasha just finally sold that fix and flip that was like just a pain in her butt. So she was so excited. And it was beautiful. She did an amazing job. So we're really excited that she got that sold. And now she's like, yay, I can go buy stuff.
Yes.
She's super excited. Battelle tomorrow, so most of you probably know, Battelle closed on a 9-unit property last month in Florida, and it was seller financing. The seller actually approached her last week and said, well, I have my motel across the street, the 7 units. He's also owned it a long time, and he wants to sell it to her. So she actually has a meeting with him tomorrow, and his attorney and his daughter, and everybody that's involved in the deal to just discuss that and see what that might look like. So, yay, Battelle. So she might get another 7-unit there pretty soon. Let's see what else. Maureen got a duplex under contract in St. Louis, and we were just talking to her today. Whoa, like the numbers of this deal are crazy. So it's a performing duplex. It's bringing in just over $1,100 a month, just currently as it sits, and she has it available. She's basically going to wholesale it, but she has it available to wholesale for $60,000. The only thing with that is whoever buys it has to be able to buy it with cash because the closing is in 2 weeks. So there's not time for financing, but all her due diligence is done, the inspection is done, the renegotiations are done. So $60,000 to bring in $1,100 and something per month, like pretty exciting.
Like get in on that.
Yeah,
That's
seriously.
cool.
So I think it looks like already like a couple people in the mastermind have already said, hey, I'm interested, but if anyone else is interested too, then make sure you tag Maureen here, Maureen Baker.
Yes, Maureen
and she can send you the information as well, but we're super excited for her. What else? Oh, Meredith is in due diligence on her first duplex, and this is one that she knew going in had some foundation issues. Bank was okay with it, the way that she was setting up the financing, but now that she got the inspection, she's finding out there's actually more wrong with the property. So she's going back and renegotiating the property and re-looking at the financing. She's probably gonna have to do hard money. So anyway, but there's no better way to learn it but to be in it and doing it, and just, obviously having us coach along the way. So we're super excited for you, Meredith. Good job. Regina is new in our mastermind. She's working on a flip and she just got it finished and she's going to the market on Friday. So good job, Regina. Love it. God, there's so much going on. You guys are just killing it. Temmie got a 6-unit under contract in Connecticut, and he is in due diligence. So he's working on his first apartment building. So you'll probably see him on the property tour because he is, I believe, we'll be looking for a partner on that one. So we'll see how that goes. And then, wow, I didn't even know about this. Don't know how we went this long, didn't know. Just found out that Steve Caro, who has a 16-unit under contract, I think he's closed on 10 deals, like one single family homes to duplexes, and now he's just getting started in apartments. So he's been in due diligence on this, another seller finance deal, and he just told us yesterday that he got a price reduction for $45,000 based on his inspection. So that's why you always get an inspection, because it allows you to go back and renegotiate the deal. So I think one of the things I love about that deal, aside from just Steve getting into his first apartment building, is that, you know, in order to take advantage of the seller financing, he has to be able to come up with a fairly sizable chunk of money, you know, more than what he has, you know, available to just put up. So he brought it to the mastermind group. A couple of the people in the mastermind were like, well, I might be interested in that. And so we have a few people in the mastermind now that are going in on that deal. And the thing that's cool is everybody, even though, you know, someone might be only putting in like a, you know, a small portion compared to the whole purchase price, everybody who's in that deal gets to say, I own a 16 unit. Like nobody ever asks the details. And so they all get the benefit of the credibility of owning a 16 unit, even though they're just, you know, they're just a part of the deal. He's bringing it, but everybody benefits. So we're really excited for that one. I think he said he might have one more spot open for one more investor to come in. So if that's something you guys want to talk to Steve about, tag him here, and I'm sure he'll be happy to talk to you guys about it. But our mastermind members are just killing it.
Killing it.
So exciting.
And then on top of that, so we have all of the mastermind members that are like taking serious action. And then we had a grip of new members join us that are ready to take action. They actually joined the November challenge, where I'm challenging them for the month to make as many offers and lock up deals and close on as many doors as they can. So I want to give a shout out to Victor Arredondo, Uriah Cones, Guy Pierre, Beth Underhill. All of you, congratulations for joining the Cash Flow Coliseum. We had Erica join our Platinum Apartment Mastermind. So she's getting ready to get locked and loaded. And then Andy and Maureen Borses upgraded to our Platinum course in our Mastermind for the Platinum Apartment. And we're super excited to see them take it to the next level. So we have like all kinds of action going on, all kinds of results, and super happy for everybody. This is really cool. And this synergy is happening, right? Where people are talking about deals and like cross-pollinating and just making it happen. So
yeah,
that's good stuff.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because last week, Regina, who's in the apartment mastermind, she had an 8 unit or has an 8 unit under contract, but she's new to the mastermind. And I was like, you got to bring that. You got to tell people in the mastermind about that, because you know, she doesn't have the funds to close it, so she's thinking about wholesaling it. But there's a multitude of people in the program right now that would probably want to partner up with her. So anyway, it's fun to see everyone taking action and working together, making it happen.
Hey, so we're about ready to get into the topic of the week. So any questions that you have going on in your life, your real estate investing journey, like let's go, list them out, questions right now, drop them, and then I'm gonna let Stacey take over while I go through this. And first come, first serve. Let's do it.
All right. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about, when I was talking to Maureen today about her duplex, I was like, okay, because the situation was that she could buy it and just hold it. But the amount of capital it was going to take to do it, and just based on like where she has her money right now, it was just going to make things tight in a way that I didn't feel was going to suit her best long term. It's going to make her feel too stressed. So I was like, cool, let's just, you know, either partner up with someone or you can wholesale it. So as we're talking through the wholesale thing, a couple of questions came up, because I said, well, how do you have it? What name is the contract in right now? Because what we always teach our students is when you're making an offer, you have to make the offer either in your LLC name or your personal name, but you always add on. So let's say it was Stacy Conkey and or designated entity. Okay, or it would be, you know, ABC Investments LLC and or designated entity. And the reason we teach our students to do that and or designated entity, for a couple of reasons. One, they might be, you know, we might have an LLC or their personal name. They might want to actually set up an LLC for that particular property or have an LLC in that state, but it's not set up yet. We have our students who are making offers like literally all over the US. They don't know where they're going to land yet as far as the deal. So we might have a student who's making offers in 4 different markets, because most of the time the answer is no. So you just got to get them out there, like send them out. When something gets accepted, you go into due diligence. If you get through due diligence and you realize, okay, this property looks like it's going to stick, that's probably the time that you're going to set up the LLC in that state, if that's your strategy. So when you're making the offer initially, you want to make sure that you have a lot of flexibility in your ability to say where the property is going to be titled or how it's going to be titled. And by the way, this is, even if you're going to assign it, which I'm going to talk about, this is what you would tell a realtor. If the realtor is like, why do you want to say and or designated entity? You say, oh, because, you know, I might set up an LLC specific for this one, but I'm not ready to do that right now because I don't even know if it's going to get through due diligence. If it does, then I can set up an LLC. We'll move it right in there. Then we don't have any delays with closing. And that way you get your commission on time, seller gets their money on time. So that's what we tell them. So, and that's true. If you're buying a property to hold it, that is all true. The other side of it though, is if you're ever looking to assign a deal, or to wholesale is probably a better way to say it, to wholesale a deal, there's a couple things you have to think about. Now, back in the old days when there were dinosaurs roaming the earth and when we were just getting started in investing.
Back when God was a boy.
Back when God was a boy, we could write on our contract, Jen and Stacy Conkey and or assigns. Like, that was no big deal. No one thought, no one made a big deal about it. But over, after the first couple of years in doing that, it started to become more and more popular to do this strategy of assigning things. And frankly, the realtors don't love it. The realtors don't love it because they're like, wait, who is the one closing on this? And they get nervous because their commissions are at stake. And rightfully so. Like, they're like, whoa, I don't like, what is this? So anytime they see and or assigns, they're probably going to tell their seller, I wouldn't do that because you don't even know who this is. They might give a proof of funds, but they're not even closing. They're trying to wholesale it to someone else. So, like everything else in real estate, you have to learn how to be a highly paid problem solver. So now there's just a problem, I can't do and or assigns, you got to come up with a solution. So over the years, what we developed was a process where if we were assigning, we don't do a lot of wholesaling, but when we've done wholesaling, if we put the property in the name of Jen and Stacy Conkey and or designated entity, if we were closing it ourselves, we could just move the property into whatever LLC we started, right? But if we were actually going to wholesale the property, and let's say I was going to wholesale it to, Rosewater Properties LLC, which maybe is owned by somebody else who I'm actually wholesaling it to. It doesn't say that the LLC has to be owned by me, right? Or by us. It just says and or designated entity. So what I would do if I was wholesaling the property and I found my buyer, they put down their deposit, is I go to the title company and say, I'm Stacy Conkey. We had our contract in the name of our name and or designated entity. We want to go ahead and designate the entity, and it's Rosewater Properties LLC. So basically we go back and it changes the vesting on the property so that when they're doing all the title work, they're now doing it in the name of the LLC, which is owned by your buyer, right? So it's like a workaround to get away from a rule or anything where it says you can't assign it. All you're doing is designating the LLC. Another way that you could sign a non-assignable property is put it in the name of an LLC that's just like a shell. So it's an actual real LLC that you create, but you don't have any business going in it. You only created it for this. You could write the offer in the name of that LLC, and then you could sell the LLC for an assignment fee. So if you're charging $5,000 or $10,000 for an assignment, instead you're saying is, oh, I'll sell you my LLC for $10,000. And my LLC happens to have a contract for 123 Main Street. So those are just some workarounds for assigning properties. Now with Maureen, I was like, the property's in St. Louis, and we haven't done a lot of business in St. Louis, but it's Missouri. So we've actually done stuff in Kansas City and St. Louis. In the Missouri state contract, I thought it said in there that a deal is actually assignable just by the definition of the contract. That's not normal. It's not typical. I've only seen it in a few states where it's written that way. But I told Maureen, go back and check, because right now she had the property just in her name. So if the property was not assignable, I was going to tell her as part of her negotiations with the seller, because she's still right at the end of due diligence, but she's still in it, to go back and negotiate to say, oh, hey, I have it in my name, but I need to be able to put it into my LLC. So I need to change it to Maureen Baker and or designated entity. And then that would create the opportunity for her to be able to then put it in the name of someone else's LLC once she found the person who's going to buy the deal. So anyway, I just thought that was a good one that came up, because it's a challenge you face when you're new and you're trying to figure out how to assign a deal, and there's all these roadblocks all over the place. Well, our job is to figure out a way over it, under it, around it, through it, and there's a few different ways to do it. You just got to you have to have some guts. No guts, no glory, but that's how you get through it and get around it.
Cool. Margaret already asked the first question. She said, but wouldn't that kill the deal? Because it takes so long for the LLC to get approved by the state.
Oh, yeah, no. So, well, okay, I'll answer that now, but we're not ready for Q&A yet.
I know.
Almost. Okay, but here's the deal. Margaret, no, actually in most states, it doesn't take long at all to set up LLCs. In most states, you can get it done in a day or two. So not at all. If you're in a state where it takes a long time to set up an LLC, then I wouldn't set up the LLC there. I'd set it up somewhere else. But we've set up a lot of LLCs over the years, and it takes almost no time at all. It's really, really fast. And it's just online for most places. If they don't have it online, I wouldn't bother. I don't think California has it online, but we don't do California LLCs because they're crazy.
Because we're smart. So just some upcoming things while we're waiting for the rest of the questions to drop down. The Warrior Mindset call is on Monday. I do that call for anybody who's struggling in real estate. There's a lot of mindset. I would argue that it's about 90% mindset in this real estate game. So a lot of folks, like, they're afraid. They don't want to lock up a deal without having money first. And there's all kinds of little fears that hold us up and keep us stuck in a pattern of not taking action. So I just invite you to come visit me. I do this call free to the community, and I do it the first Monday of every month, and it's at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's in the events, so you can go register and then join me there. And anything that you might be stuck with, I help you on the spot during the call. So the other thing is we have the apartment investing webinar masterclass next Wednesday on November 4th. If you haven't registered for that, it's also in the events. Anybody who's interested in coming to learn how to do and get into apartments without syndication, I'll say it again, without syndication, come see us. If you're interested in syndication, that's not for you. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about without syndication. Cool. So I think you have a pre-submitted question from somebody.
I do just want to say one thing.
Okay.
On the syndication front. It's not that there's anything wrong with syndication, and within our mastermind, when it's appropriate, we'll teach it. But here's what we find, because the money is everyone's big hang up when they're getting started, there's this big push out there in the world from people who are in real estate education to say, oh, well, it's fine, you don't need money, you could just do syndication. And they make it sound like it's no big deal. And the reality is it's a very big deal. It's very complicated. There's a lot of legalities. There's a lot of SEC rules that you have to work within. It's an absolute solution to doing it. But what we found is when people are just getting started, which we tend to work with people who are mostly just getting started with apartments, as opposed to someone who's done a ton of apartments. We have a little bit of both, but mostly newer people, that if we try to say, yeah, go ahead and do a syndication as your first deal, they're going to go through the program and never actually get anything done. And it's one of the things that we feel differentiates us, we know differentiates us from other programs, and this Facebook group is, we're about giving you solutions that allow you to take action and get deals done. So I don't hate syndication, I'm not against it, we've done it, but when people are new, the syndication part, the complication of it tends to keep them from ever starting. That's why we focus on teaching you how to do it without syndication. You don't have to have your own money. You're bringing in other money, but you're doing it in a very specific way, and we'll talk through that. There's a strategy to that, so we're going to teach that in that class. But that's really the main reason is we just want you to be able to take action and get that first apartment building. Because once you've done one, oh my God. Let me tell you about Joni. Joni's closed on that 6 unit last week. She's closing on that 9 unit this week. Do you know that she is already making offers on other ones? And I'm like, girl, you need to slow down. Like, hold on. Like, you got rehab to do. But she's like, man, I got this now. Let's go. So I'm going to be like, wait. Just like with Steve Caro. But the reality is, once you do that first one, doors totally open for you. That's why we're saying we'll teach you how to do it without syndication. So you can actually do it. Then later, when you start doing bigger and bigger deals and you're ready for syndication, cool. We'll help you through that too. But we're going to focus on helping people actually get started instead of just teaching you a bunch of stuff that's interesting, but not very actionable.
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit passionate today.
Only a little bit. I didn't mean to knock syndication.
No, you weren't.
I
just wanted to explain.
That's like a barrier to entry for some. So
yeah.
I just wanted to let you know that
you totally didn't even knock it.
Cool. I just want to make sure.
I'm just so passionate about you guys actually getting out of, like, how many more YouTube videos are you going to watch before you take action? No more YouTube videos. Let's just get into action. So we try to give you the simplest way to do it. That means no syndication.
Look at Caitlin said, I am ready for the mindset call. I need mindset help. I need to get my first deal.
Yeah, you do. You're on your way though.
Yeah, totally.
You already made an offer, girl.
Yeah, you're doing great. And you know what? I don't know about you, but like I could walk you through that pretty quick at the beginning of the call, because I know that sometimes you can't get to the call at the beginning, but as soon as you get there, Caitlin, I will hook you up first and foremost. So let's see. We don't have any other questions so far. This is incredible.
No, but I'll go ahead and answer this one. If you guys have questions, throw them in. We get questions all the time throughout the week in our messenger chat from like all sorts of like Facebook group members. We cannot coach people through messenger one-on-one. If you're in our mastermind, we have all sorts of, things set up for that. But like, this is the time to get any question you have answered. So take advantage of it. I am gonna read a question that Malcolm, who's actually in our mastermind, sent earlier today, but he wasn't gonna be able to live, so he wanted to watch it in the recording. So here's what he said. I remember one of the properties that Natasha had in her portfolio was a possible tear down because of foundation issues. Can you and Jen talk about the process of a tear down, how that works, and if your exit strategy is to build multiple homes on this parcel of property after you tear down the one home, how that process works, like what we have to do to subdivide existing parcel, etc. I was like, whoa, that's a big question. Okay, so for starters, I'm gonna just preface everything by saying, if you're new to real estate investing, you're not touching any kind of tear down. There's so much more to it than any kind of simple deal. So that is not a starter deal by any stretch of the imagination. All right, but that being said, I'm still gonna answer the question, but if you guys are new, anything that's a tear down, that's a no. That's a hard no, not right away. Okay, so the process of a tear down and how that works. Well, for starters, it's pretty infrequent that you're gonna be dealing with a tear down property, but because most of the time, if you're dealing with a property, it can be renovated. Even if there's foundation issues, we've had foundation issues on a lot of our properties. Well, foundation issues can be fixed. It's not a big deal. They just cost X amount of money, which you factor into the deal. All right, so if it is so bad, or if the opportunity that exists there is greater with some different use of the property, then you might choose to tear the property down. So, that means you're literally doing demolition, which you might even, I'm not sure, we've never torn a property down before because we always renovate. But you're probably gonna have to get a permit for that. And so you are basically tearing the property down. If you're just building another property on the same footprint, then you could leave the foundation in place, potentially. But if not, if you're doing like a different use property, then you might have to actually tear the whole foundation out, fill in any, if there's a basement, like fill in any dirt, and then you're starting with empty land. Okay, so that's how you would start. So let's say that was the case. You completely razed the property, you got rid of it, you laid new foundation, or let's even say before that, because Malcolm's question was, if your exit strategy is to build multiple homes on this property after you tear the one home down, how does that process work? So it depends. If you're building a multi-family property, let's say you're building 6-unit condo. So you're building a very large property that has 6 separate units, and you are going to keep it as a rental property, then you would have to get permitted. You have to make sure that the land is zoned for 6-unit. So you would basically get it zoned and you'd build a 6-unit property, and then you would rent it out or sell it to someone who wanted to hold it for rent. If you are looking to build like separate properties, like single family homes, you would have to subdivide the land, which means you're going to planning and development, you're going to zoning, and it's a long time, takes a long process, but basically you're creating separate pieces of land and then doing separate builds on each one of them. So I'm not sure exactly what your question was, Malcolm, but that's the gist of it. And beyond that, if you want to explore it, you're already in the mastermind, so you can just ask me on Tuesday, but that's the gist of it. Don't recommend it as a new project, but if you're tearing down a property, you always have to make sure that what you're putting back on is allowed to be put back on. And in fact, in Steve's deal, that's one of the things he's looking at is he's got some empty space in the building, and he's looking at what would it take from a zoning perspective for me to be able to add some units there, because then he could add more value, which massively increases, or he can increase the net operating income, which massively increases the value of the property. So that's a great question, and it's something you always want to be looking at with every deal that you do, even if it's just a regular rehab.
Cool. So we've got Cardine Williams asks, how do you find good contractors?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me have a beverage and I will tell you.
She's trying to do product placement with our logo, with her.
Oh, is that what it
little,
does?
Yeah, she's trying. Oh, you
see?
can't
Oh, I
even
can't
see
see
it.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Isn't that cool?
Somebody made that for us. We were excited.
We're a little nerdy sometimes.
Little.
We get a little excited.
How do we find good contractors?
Okay, so we actually have a couple of master classes where this is actually in the master class. I think there's 2 or 3 where I talk about it. But where you're going to find contractors is The same place you would find contractors if you were looking to renovate your own home. What would you do? Would you walk out on the street and start yelling, "Hey, I need a contractor"? No, you're just gonna hop on different websites and look. But some of the best websites, Cardine, would be Home Advisor, Angie's List, House, which is spelled Houzz, Porch, and I'm saying all of these are .com. You could go to Craigslist, you can go to Thumbtack. So there's really no shortage. The main thing that we always look for, because you're asking about good contractors, is we always look for licensed and experienced general contractors. Licensed and experienced in the type of property or project we're doing. So if someone's got, they've done all sorts of like fix and flips, so super high end, but I'm hiring them to renovate our 24-unit apartment building, it's a different kind of rehab. So I'm looking for someone who has similar experience to that. But basically just go to the websites and start making phone calls, tell them what you're looking to do, and ask them about their experience, ask them about their license, how long they've been in business, etc. And it's just a matter of, it's not like dialing for dollars, and you just narrow down the list through your conversations.
Yep. All right, Deanne Pruitt. She says, I'm very new to real estate. Last year I bought a 2-unit townhouse. Over the last year I saved up almost another $40K. Awesome. I'd really like to buy another. The thing is though, prices are a lot higher. And due to being self-employed, I can only get, I don't know what QM, non-QM loans are. But yeah, so I think her question is, what does she do?
It's QM is probably related something to how you have to prove your income.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for starters, so you have about 40,000, Dan. The first thing I say, when you say that properties are expensive, where are they expensive? And if where they're expensive is where you're planning on investing, you may consider the possibility of choosing a different market where the numbers make more sense. And if this is the first time you've heard us talk about that before, that might be like, wait, what are you even talking about? But I'll tell you, Jen and I have been investing since 2003, and we do all of our investing remotely, which means we live here in San Diego, and our investments are everywhere else. They're not here. We don't go to them. We don't drive to them, fly to them. We don't see them in person. I mean, we see them through FaceTime and Marco Polo and video. Thank God for all the technology. Oh, non-qualified mortgage. Okay.
Non-qualified, okay.
Yeah, so if you're in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, and it's very high there, I think Pennsylvania is also very high in closing costs and property taxes. I'm not positive, but I know that there are some things about Pennsylvania that make investing challenging. You just want to start looking outside your market. If this is something new to you, we have literally done masterclasses on remote investing to start to expand your mind. Because when you've never heard of that before and you don't even know that it's a possibility, it's like, wait, you just kind of like get stuck on stupid, like, wait, what do you mean? How is that possible? But I assure you, we have systems in place. Like in the beginning, everything we did, we didn't know what we were doing. The learning curve was like absolutely painful. But we learned a lot along the way. And we ended up creating systems that allow us to check every box and be able to do deals over and over. But it first is laying out a system, and that starts with a mindset of knowing, do I actually physically have to be there? Or do we live in an age where everything is available to me on my computer and my cell phone, and I have people in that market that are qualified professionals at what they do that I can leverage because they make money to be able to do deals? And that's what like nearly everybody in our mastermind right now who's buying properties are buying them where they don't live.
Yeah, we've never even stepped foot in any of our properties.
Correct.
I tagged Gazel to send you the remote investing webinar that we have, so you can expect to see that, Dan.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Caitlin, how does subject to work, and have you done any? Good question.
All right, I'll explain it in just a sec. And I just realized, Dan, I wanted to finish answering that question and I didn't. I got distracted about the remote investing. When you get to the point where you pick a market where your 40,000 can actually do something, there's a lot of mortgages out there that don't require you to have a job. Like, we don't have a job, we have businesses. So we're not the great borrower either. Just like you, we're self-employed. So from a lending perspective, we're not going to walk into Wells Fargo and go get a loan on a rental property. But there's a lot of hard money lenders out there that have long-term rental programs. And a lot of times we associate the word hard money with, oh, really high interest. It's only really high interest when you're rehabbing. But when it's a stabilized asset and it's already rented and it's in good shape, their rates, they're higher than conventional lenders, but not unreasonable. So just know that there's a lot of options for you once you get to a market where you can afford it better to do that. Also, probably one of the best ways you could leverage that $40,000 is to do the BRRRR strategy, where you're buying, renovating, renting it, and then refinancing and pulling that $40,000, or maybe not all of it, but let's say you're pulling $30,000 back out. Okay, and now you have a performing cash flow property, and then you take that $30,000 plus the cash flow from your other, and you go do it again. Buy it, renovate it, and by renovate I mean hire contractors to renovate it. And we have a BRRRR webinar also that we can share with you if you don't already know that strategy. So that's a really good way, in my opinion, to take that $40,000 and make it work for you. You don't even need $40,000. A lot of markets, you don't even need $40,000. You probably get started with 20 or 25, even without needing a partner, if you're going to do the BRRRR strategy.
Totally. All right, back to Caitlin's question.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Subject 2.
Okay, so Caitlin, how subject 2 works. Have we done any? Yes, we've done subject 2. We haven't done a lot of subject 2, and especially not in the last many years, because subject to existing financing tends to be a strategy that you do like in a local market where you physically live. And it's not that it's required. The reason it ends up being that is because typically subject 2 is when you're basically taking over someone's mortgage. So that's the type of strategy that if you're not there to meet with them in person and let them get to know you and trust you, that's going to be a difficult thing to sell. Yeah, go ahead and take over my mortgage. So it's a viable strategy. The only thing that's not great about what's tied to it is that there's so many people doing that or trying to do it in their home market because they don't know what we teach, which is remote investing. So they all try to do it in the same place, which means you have 150 investors all going after the same deal so that they can do the subject to. So it's really sexy because it's like, oh, you don't need any money. You can take over someone's mortgage. But there's a certain reality to it. Those are all the things that we were told too. That's why it was so frustrating when we were new, because it's like they sell you on how easy it is. It's not easy. There's like so many people doing it. And so for you to even ever get a deal is very challenging. So, but the way subject to works is if you have a seller who's like, hey, I just got to get rid of the property. I just needed someone to take over my mortgage. That's effectively what you're doing. You're buying the property subject to the existing financing. So you're buying it with the existing financing in place. Now, technically, I feel like the risk is very low, but technically there's a risk that the note could be called due from the lender, because if the ownership of the property changes hands, that immediately triggers the due on sale clause, which means the lender could then immediately say, this property, you have to pay us within 30 days, the entire mortgage balance, or we're foreclosing. That's a possibility. I think it's a very small possibility because as long as you're making the payments, why would they do that? But it's just important to know what the whole playing field is, so you know when you're taking a risk, you know the risk you're taking, and you can assess if you're comfortable with it. Caitlin, given like you guys being in Washington, if you were doing a deal in Washington, maybe that would work. It's just there's so much competition. So for what you and Sarah are focusing on and doing stuff remotely, you're better fit. And I know you couldn't make the mastermind call yesterday, so I'm kind of giving you a little bit of advice that we would have been talking about yesterday. For you guys, it's going to be your best fit to probably partner on your first couple of deals with someone who can bring the capital. And actually, I think you guys are okay on credit. I can't remember what your situation is, but to bring the piece that you don't have and you do the rest, but pick a market where things are more affordable, where you can bring in a partner, you guys can do it together, and now you and the partner can say, hey, we have 2 units, we have 4 units, we have 6 units, we have 15 units, and you just keep growing. And eventually, you don't need the partners anymore. And I know you and Sarah are young, you're in your 20s, and that's where we were when we were starting. I mean, maybe more like later 20s, but the same thing. We didn't have the capital to start. So, but it didn't occur to me to let that be anything that hindered me. I was like, no, we're doing it. I don't care. We'll figure it out. And that's what it was. We just connected with people who didn't have like the time to do it, or they weren't going to spend the time to learn. And we were like, well, we'll do it. If you provide the capital, we'll do the work. And we both benefited. And that is how we launched our whole career. And which is why I always tell you guys, look, you cannot let money be something that holds you back, because that's just a decision. You can make a decision that I'll do whatever it takes. And if that's partnering up, cool, we're going to partner up. So I know it's not ideal. You don't want to own property with other people, but if you don't have the resources to do it, that's where you start. And then what you're going to find is you'll get more money from your lenders down the line because you've done deals. And then you don't need as much capital to start because you have credibility.
If you don't mind, I'd like to throw some gas on that fire too, Caitlin. While you're doing that partnering thing, you could also be wholesaling on the side to raise your own capital so that you could break free of those handcuffs of partnering and actually start funding your own if you were so inclined, or making your money go further. So it's just a way to like accelerate your results as if you're executing both strategies.
Yeah.
Okay, so Maureen said, in the subject 2, do you typically just take over payments, or do sellers expect you to give cash above and beyond mortgage due?
That's a great question, Maureen. It really depends on the seller, and it depends on the seller. It depends on the value of the property and the balance of their mortgage. So let's say, for example, you're looking at a property that's $120,000. They owe $120,000 and it's worth $120,000. You cannot give them any money without you overpaying, and you're not in the business of making financial decisions that hurt you long term. You're only going to do it if it's a win-win. So if they owe 120 and it's worth 120, and paying 120 works for you, or taking over the mortgage, cool. Let's say now that they owe 60. They only owe 60 and it's worth 120. Now the question is, do you give them cash at closing? Potentially. There's a number of different ways that you could structure that. That one might be more of like a wraparound mortgage opportunity where you're paying them, like maybe you pay them a $10,000 down payment and you're making payments to them every month that are above and beyond their mortgage. Let's say their mortgage payment is $500 and you're making $700 a month payments to them. So they're getting, the mortgage company's getting $500, they're getting the other $200, they got $10,000 down, but they just have $200 a month for the next however many years. So that could be a win-win. So there's no typical anything, because it's just, there's all those different factors. Also, you could be dealing with a seller that's like, you know what, my ex-husband lived here and he did this and I hate this house and I just want to get rid of it. Give me $5,000, I'm out of here.
Or I'm burning it to the ground.
Right? Oh, so there's really, it's any possibility. That's something that doesn't happen that often where you just get like this crazy killer deal. Except Maureen, you kind of somehow ended up with a crazy killer deal. But there's no rules. The thing is, and you were on the mastermind call yesterday, as I was coaching Battelle through having that conversation with the seller of the 7 unit tomorrow, what I told her and what I want you to cue in on is you're looking to be a problem solver. We're not looking to take advantage. We are real estate investors, but the whole point is we solve problems. And so when you take the time to listen to what someone's issue is, what their problem is, what their desires are, then you can better structure an offer that's going to meet their needs. It has to obviously meet yours as well. But whether someone is like, I got to have cash right now and I want nothing to do with this ever, well then don't set up $200 payments for the next 10 years to them, because they just want to be done. And if they're super motivated, just get out, then find out what it is. But if they're like, I want to get all $120,000 out of my property, I don't mind leaving my $60,000 mortgage in place and letting you make me payments for the next 10 years. So you just have to really listen to what the person is going through, what their desires, what their needs are, and then structure the deal accordingly.
Right on. Jimmy Ayala is watching. He asked, any lender recommendation?
Okay, there we go. Sorry, all of a sudden it was like trying to reconnect. It depends on what your strategy is. If you're buying a property that is an existing, it's a performing cash flow property, then even that is going to depend on you as a borrower. Are you employed? Do you have great credit? Because if so, you can just go conventional lending. And in that case, you could just Google lenders, or you could look up lenders in that local market or credit unions. Like really anything could go. But if you're like self-employed or where you can't go to a conventional bank, you might go the route of private money lenders or hard money lenders who have long-term rental programs. And same thing, you're just going to look for lenders, just Google lenders that lend in the area where the property is. If it's a fixer-upper, then you're for sure going for a lender that is a hard money lender or does rehab loans. So we don't really make specific recommendations because it really is always going to depend on you. How many deals have you done? Or are you brand new? How much capital do you have? What is the price point? Things like that. But what we teach our students, I don't ever tell our students, oh, you should go use this person or this lender. But I will teach you how to interview them, how to run your numbers so that you can determine, oh, this lender is going to be the best for this deal. But for this deal, the fact that it's so different strategy, it's going to be a totally different lender. The best thing you can ever do for yourself is just get on the phone and start making phone calls and interview. And it's going to feel awkward in the beginning if you haven't done it before, because you won't feel like you know what you're talking about. But you'll get over that really fast, because the more calls you have, the more you'll start piecing it together, and you'll be able to ask questions more confidently. So no specific lender, just Google and just get out there and start making phone calls and talking to people. And you could also ask in the community, because other people in the community might be like, oh, hey, I've used this lender, I've used that lender. We try not to do that because we don't want to steer anyone towards any specific place. We'd really rather teach you how to fish than say, oh, here's a flounder.
I'm not really into flounder. I think I'm too tied to flounder from Little Mermaid.
That's what made me think of it.
Yeah. Cassandra. So Cassandra's with us. She's also in our mastermind. And she asks, do you put all your money into one bigger deal or buy multiple smaller deals with the same pot of money? Seems smarter to diversify. No. I mean, go ahead. I have so many things to chime in on, but I want you to go first.
No, go ahead.
No, you.
Okay. So first of all, there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong answer. That's really going to be based on your personality. My personality is more like your personality, Cassandra, which was not shocking because we kind of figured that out when we first started talking. I prefer to diversify because I am risk averse. So obviously I'm willing to take some amount of risk because I'm in real estate investing, but I will do everything in my power to absolutely mitigate risk at every potential level. So if I had the choice personally of taking a pool of funds and putting it into 10 different deals, that's my preference as opposed to one deal. But there's other people who are like, shit, I don't have time. I don't have time to be doing all these different things. I just want to put it into one. So that's why I say there's no right or wrong. It's more of a personality, security driven decision. For me, I'm like, well, cool, because if 4 out of these 10 properties go up in value, we diversified, where this property, it has to go up in value, although we would just improve it to force the value to go
exactly
up.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's no right or wrong answer on that, Cassandra. It's the whole thing that I want you to think about, because you're in property management and you're a property management expert and you're used to dealing with big properties, so you're really comfortable in that for the property management standpoint. If it's going to keep you from taking action, that you stepping immediately into some kind of big property, then don't. Buy a little duplex so you could be like, okay, that wasn't so hard. I could do a 4-unit, then buy a 4-unit. Okay, that was easy. Now let me go to apartments. I'll buy a 6-unit or an 8-unit.
You could do that. Now it's my turn.
Okay, I'm just saying. Well, here's the main.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If going big, it's the same thing with syndication. It's the reason I don't tell people, yeah, go ahead and go buy a 100-unit apartment building on your first deal, even though you absolutely could. It's because most people won't ever end up doing anything, and you would be better off to get something and get going, because the momentum gets crazy.
Yeah.
And then you'll get into it. But if what you're trying to buy is so big that you just keep not taking action because it's so big, then freaking start with something small so that you do something. That's my only thing.
And we'll just go with, from there to me. Totally opposite end of the pendulum.
Shocking.
So shocking. Which is why we balance each other out. She'll tell me when I'm crazy and being too aggressive.
Shark.
And I'll tell her when she's being too silly and stepping over a quarter to pick up a dime. So my philosophy is this, and I'll tell you, years ago, it was probably a little bit more in line with what Stacey's talking about, obviously, because, you want to mitigate the risk. You want to kind of learn to crawl before you walk. It's all a mentality thing. So back then, yes, that's the thing. That's what I was doing. Maybe now my vantage point is different. So for me, it's I want to try and get as many fucking doors under one roof as I can, because it takes the same amount of fucking energy to do one deal as it does to do 12. But actually, probably more to do 12. So if I'm going to do a deal with 16 doors and be done with that one deal versus, 4 quadplexes, then I would rather just do the one deal to get the same amount of doors. Now, I know that sounds like a very high level, macro level strategy there. But for me, it's just I want to go where it makes the most sense. And if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. So I want to get as many doors as I can under one roof. And my whole philosophy is we entered into the Indianapolis market 3 years ago. And when we entered it, it was very much in a buyer's phase 1, almost 2. So we were entering it a little bit late after there was already some buzz on the street that, ooh, man, have you been to Indy yet? No, man, we're still messing around in St. Louis. What are you talking about? And then we went into that market. Well, my philosophy is what I like to do is go in when shit is crazy and people are like, why are you going into that market? And I'm like, because I want to scoop everything up. And then in a like 3 to 5 year time period, I want to try to sell it and collect all my money and go to the next market where everything is. So that's a completely opposite strategy than diversifying, right? Like I'm trying to put all of it in the one area while still having other smaller areas, but there's always one big mamma jamma that I'm trying to drop all our shit into and then pick it up and go when it makes sense to go into a different market. So there's so many different strategies. It all depends on your personality, your mindset, your tenacity, perseverance, everything you're trying to accomplish in the end game. All of that factors in, and there is a happy medium, right? Like you can kind of do both. You don't have to pick one or the other. I am an extremist. I'll just openly admit that right now. I'm like, go hard or go home. And Stacy's more like down the road, down the middle of the lane, like, let's balance everything. And I'm like, quit thinking about shit and let's just work. Let's just do. And so we balance each other. If you don't have anybody to balance you, you got to find a way to modify your approach. If you do, if you're the one that's like, oh my God, I'm thinking about everything and I'm not taking any action, you're going to have to change your approach because you don't have a partner that's going to kick you in the ass when you make a decision. So Cassandra, my whole point is you got to pick what's going to work for you and what is going to make you comfortable sleeping at night. That's it. Okay. And I know that I probably went down some stupid rabbit hole, but get as many doors under one roof as you can. Everybody, please. That's all.
I mean, like you're right, Cassandra, from economies of scale, that is 100% true. Apartments always are going to make more sense from an operation standpoint. Because I am an educator, I'm the educator in this bunch.
I'm the doer.
Well, I do too.
I know. No, shit,
okay.
I know.
But I am, as the educator, because I coach people through it, I've just seen but we have people in our program who came right into the apartments. They've never did a single family or a duplex, and they're like, I don't care. I go right to apartments. Great. If that's your mindset, great. You do that. The only reason I'm bringing it up with you, Cassandra, is the opposite. Is if doing that keeps you from doing something, then start off with something small. But it will always make more sense to do apartments. But if you need to like run, walk before you run, that's fine too. Coach Kimberly, who's our like apartment coach, does all our one-on-one coaching for our students in our program. She would tell you, I don't know what you like. Why would you ever buy a duplex? And I don't. Some of her one-on-one students who are in the apartment thing end up buying a duplex. She's like,
stop that now.
I don't know why you're doing that. She only does apartments. She's only ever done apartments. She's like, I don't get it. This whole flipping thing, I don't get it. So it's just funny. So it goes to show you don't have to start small and go big. But if you have a mental hurdle about it, start somewhere. It's like Lupe. Yeah. Right? Lupe is like, I'm going to do apartments, but she wasn't getting any traction. And one day she's like, would it be okay if I just put a duplex so I could get something? And I'm like, hell yes. So she did it. And then she got another one. And then she got another one. She's closed on her third property. She's got 5 units. But because she was having some trouble like making the mental jump, and now she's probably fine and ready to go into apartments. Yeah. So it just depends on your personality.
Totally. All right, David, how do I get my hands on a triplex that is way overpriced? What? Value is probably $360 to $450, but they're asking $660. What?
You probably don't, David.
Yeah.
You probably don't, unfortunately. If there's always there's two parties in a transaction. There's a buyer and there's a seller. Always the sellers want more and the buyers want to pay less. The only time that comes together is when you have a seller who's motivated enough to put their property at a price that the buyer can get it at. Or a buyer who isn't educated otherwise or doesn't know how to calculate numbers makes an offer on offering a seller whatever they want. No, it's too much and they're not going to cash flow, right? But I mean, if it's worth $330,000, they're asking $660. Like literally, don't even burn a single other mental calorie on that. No. Just walk away. Go find other properties or other markets where the numbers make sense. Because you're so far off, it's never going to happen. So just go focus on something that actually can,
totally
pay you.
Totally. Vincent, what is your next big market? Okay, so I will tell you, Vincent, I will tag you in a post on some notes and reconnaissance that I'm doing in order to find our next market in 2021. I'll tag you in the post that I did. Stacy will kill me, so I can't tell you right here.
Let me tell you something, Vincent. Again, let me teach you how to fish.
Okay.
Stop canning fish over.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm not an educator. Okay, I'm sorry.
I am an educator. Let me educate you about something. So we have a master class called the Market Research Master Class.
That's right.
So none of you guys ever want to rely on anyone ever saying, here's a thunder, here's this contractor, here's this anything. It doesn't serve you long term. Even here's this market. Let's cut it out. Stop doing all our research. All right, but we will teach you in that master class, and it's free. We did it for this community. It's recorded. It's on YouTube. Just have to message us and ask for it. We'll get it to you. It will teach you how to do the research instead of just saying, "Oh yeah, this market." Well, what if we were wrong, and you relied on that? Or what if someone says it and they were just selling you something and they threw something out, and you were like, "Oh, okay." It's better to learn how to think and how to research so you can make the decision for yourself.
Hey, in full honesty and disclosure though, Vincent, I teach you how to think about it in my post. So I'll still tag you in it.
It's a really good post.
Come on, man. I'm not an educator, but I sure do fucking try.
You are good at educating. I just want you guys to know I want you to learn the how.
I get it. I know. I'm always, that's why you're awesome. All right. So let's see. In the market I bought in, it's fairly easy to get rents that equal 1% of the purchase price. Is that what I should shoot for? Yes.
Yeah. Generally speaking.
That was for Dan.
Yeah. Dan, you want to make sure that you're still running actually crunch the full numbers, because here's the thing. The 1% rule is it's a very high level general rule of thumb that will give you an idea of whether a market makes sense for cash flow or not. But that is not an actual analysis tool for making an offer. And here's why. I remember, oh God, it was a really long time ago, but I did a lot of investing in Detroit when I was a new investor, and Detroit pretty much handed me my ass. So that was fun, but I learned a lot. And one of the things I learned is, wow, that 1% rule, you can't just make a decision on that. Here's why. In some markets, the property taxes are much higher than in other markets. In some markets, the property insurance is much higher than other markets, which those two things, if they're really out of whack, you could have a 1% rule meet and still be negative cash flow. So 1% rule is okay, that should work. But now as you're looking at deals, you actually look at the real expenses and make sure that it cash flows, just because there's some places where those two things could be really high, but not most places. But what if it was and you bought it and you're like, oh dang, I thought this was going to pay me, a couple $100s a month, and instead I'm losing $100. That sucks. And now you're in it. There's nothing you can do about it. You just got to live with it and then do better the next time. We're hoping that you just don't have to go through that learning process.
Totally. If you guys want the link in for the market research stuff, can you please just tag, say market research, and then I'll make sure Gazel gets it to you. Next question is from Cardine. How is commercial due diligence different from residential due diligence?
Cardine, are you saying commercial as in apartments commercial, or commercial as in
multifamily 1 to 4,
or commercial like Devin Felicia, like a commercial, like a strip mall?
Right, strip mall. Yeah.
You say commercial, do you mean 5+ units, or commercial? Okay, well, I will wait to hear what she says.
While we're waiting for that, Deanne says, is 1% of the purchase price the metric you should use? I paid $110,000 rents. Sorry, Uber went off. I gotta go. Okay. We'll try to answer you here.
Is the 1% of the purchase the metric you should use? Okay, well, I feel like I actually answered that. She might not have heard it.
Yeah,
so,
maybe not. Okay. Cool. Where were we?
So Cardine, are you talking about commercial as in 5+ units commercial, or commercial as in
multifamily 6+?
Okay. Well, just so you know, it's actually 5+. So as you're talking there, when it's 5+ units, it's commercial. 1 to 4 units is residential. The due diligence is not different. What's different between commercial and residential is the way that the properties are valued. Properties 1 to 4 units are valued based on comparable sales. So you can't really increase the value beyond what other things have sold for. In 5+ units, why that's such a popular place to be beyond cash flow is because as you increase the net operating income, which is either increasing the revenue or decreasing the expenses, but basically improving the financial performance of the property, that raises the value, because that's how multifamily over 5 units are valued. So the due diligence is, you still have to do a physical inspection of the property to know what's physically. You still have to verify that the income that's coming in, if it's already performing, is actually coming in. That the bodies, the people, not bodies like dead people, but like the renters are actually there. You're looking at their leases. You're basically looking to validate, almost like audit, what the seller is telling you. Because in theory, you're buying a property for X amount of dollars because the seller's represented to you that it's worth that much because you're making this much money, right? But if you find out once you buy it, oh, wait a second, it's making $1,000 less a month than I thought, then it wouldn't have been worth as much to you to buy it. So the due diligence is the same. You're looking at the leases, you're verifying the rent rolls, you're basically auditing the financial performance, and you're doing, what are you guys laughing about? You must be watching it on the
Because
recording.
you said, let the bodies hit the floor.
Oh. Anyway, so it's similar due diligence. It's more. There's more because there's more units. Like Steve right now, he's a physician assistant, so he's at work full time, and now it's high time in Florida, so like everybody's there, and so he's super busy at work, and he's running this due diligence on the 16 unit. So it's not a duplex. There's not 2 units to verify. It's 16 units to verify. So it's just more of it. The other thing that would be different is if you're trying to do something different with the property, where Steve's like maybe going to add units. Oh my gosh. If he's going to maybe add units, then there would be additional due diligence, which is why he got an extension, because he's actually talking to the zoning department of how many units could I add? And then like, what would that look like financially for him? So he can determine whether he wants to have that as part of his plan. So as he's bringing on the investors that are going to partner with him, that they know what their potential is and what they can make. So, but overall, it's pretty similar.
Yeah. So we got Suzanne Wamba just messaged me privately because she can't leave a comment, but she said she has a private lender that's been stalking her for the last few weeks. He's willing to fund her whole deal. And she's wondering, because you had mentioned that was probably a scam. And she also continued to say the guy looks legit. She looked him up. Says he will give a minimum of $50K and up to $10 million, which was surprising.
Suzanne, message Misty and ask her how that went for her. Yeah. The legit private money lender. Here's the challenge, Suzanne. First of all, if they're stalking you, that's a little bit unusual. For a lender, they don't usually do that. Mm-hmm. So I know you don't mean stalking like weird, but like keep following up. And when they have a range that goes 50,000 to 10 million, my spidey sense is tingling. Here's what you want to find out from them. I'm always hesitant about private money lenders. If they're a hard money lender that's just saying private money for marketing, fine, that's different. But individual private money lenders, unfortunately, are super known for scamming people who are new because you don't know any different. And you don't have a coach who's saying, that's a freaking red flag. But anytime they're asking you for money ahead of time, I have an application fee, or I need you to put down the down payment, send me this money, that is for sure going to end up with you crying about how you just got ripped off. So, I don't know about this one. They can look very legit. When Misty was going through her deal and had a private money lender, like I even researched and I was like, man, they do look legit. But at the end of the day, the way they were acting, something was not right. And they were not legit. But they had an office address that I went to Google Maps, even looked at the street, we looked at their website. Everything looked good. But like their terms were, I know this is before you're in the program, but their terms were like, yeah, we'll give you up to $100,000 unsecured. First of all, that's bullshit, right? I'll give you $100,000 unsecured at 4% interest. No, even hard money lenders don't make unsecured loans. They require a first mortgage on the property. Unsecured loans are credit cards.
Says origination fee of $3,500.
Yep.
Get it back at closing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to read this for everyone. This is what Suzanne said. He looks a little odd. Yes, he's charging a $3,500 origination fee, which he says I get back at closing. Okay, so right there, that's it right there. And that is the most common scam. They also will scam new people by saying, we'll fund 100% of your deal. Mm-hmm. So Caitlin and Sierra, when you're like, hey, we can only find someone who'll do 90%, that it would be so easy if you didn't know otherwise, if you weren't being coached, for you to be like, oh man, we could get 100%, we just got to come up with $3,500. Well, let's make that happen because then we can get all the money. Not only are you not going to get the 100% loan, your $3,500 is gone. It's a scam that is prevalent and they prey on new investors. So there's never money due up front. The most you'll ever pay a legitimate hard money lender is maybe for the appraisal.
Yeah.
Which, you know, depending on what the size of the property is, you're talking about maybe $400 to $600. And oftentimes you're paying the appraiser directly. But yeah, that's no good.
Cool.
No bueno.
So she says, oh, good. I just got a name. I'm going to go find him. Thank you. Okay. That is it. Oh, wait. My partners fund from 100K to 1 billion. Okay. But do they ask for $3,500 up front, David?
I can't see what the whole
I can't see what it says either. I'm going to go back. Okay. It's hard to navigate this.
Yeah.
No upfront fees, an application criteria. Not everyone qualifies.
Yeah. Okay. So,
makes more
like what
sense.
David's saying, my partners will fund from 100,000 to 1 billion. Direct guy does 50. Well, it moved down. I can't say it now.
I'm so sorry. Somebody
I
commented.
know. I'm not saying it was wrong.
No upfront fees.
Yeah. So okay. So what David's saying is, look, not everybody's going to qualify. You have to apply. You might not qualify, but there's a bigger range. But there's no upfront fees. That's the big flag. Is the upfront fees. And it's so easy when someone's desperate to get money for a deal and you've never done it and you don't realize that that's a scam. It's you're like just a target rich environment for people who are looking to scam, and they're very good and you can't find them once the deal's done. So
yep.
Always ask those questions, and if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Totally.
And, you know, sometimes you just gotta partner up with people or wholesale till you can get there. And that's okay. It's okay to be on the journey.
Yes. Cool. Well, it's been a fun hour. It's been fun. It's been real. It's been real fun. We're done. I'm going to tag everybody in it. And if you want the market research, I only got one person saying they wanted it, but put market research in the comments. I'll have Gazel send you that link. And then I'll tag everybody that was interested in how it is that I do the market selection. Yeah, that's it. Don't forget Warrior Mindset Call on Monday, apartment webinar next Wednesday. Yeah. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good week.
If you're interested in learning more about real estate investing or investing in passive income, multifamily, or apartments, feel free to join our free private Facebook group. If you know that you want help, you know you want someone to hold your hand, and you know you want to be part of a mastermind and have coaching, all that you need to do is text the word freedom to 619-373-8461. So if you just want to see, like, what is that about and how can I speed up my results and do it more safely, I'd be happy to chat with you about what your options are and see what we can do to help you along your journey.